It's officially official. The New Jersey Devils have punched their ticket back to the Stanley Cup Playoffs, and they did it in exciting fashion against the Ottawa Senators. We have a lot to break down in today's episode of Locked On Devils. Buckle up, everybody, and I hate the Tkachuk brothers.
You're Locked On Devils, your daily podcast on the New Jersey Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, this is Bryce Salvador, and you're Locked On Devils with Trey Matthews.
Elliott scores! Oh, Steven stepped up, nailed it. Brodor's got the puck. What a shot. The Devils win the Stanley Cup.
Alrighty now, what is up, New Jersey? Welcome back to the Locked On Devils podcast here on the Locked On Network. I'm your host, college hockey play-by-play announcer, Devils writer for Pucks and Pitchforks, and also part-time credential media member, Trey Matthews. So for the first time since 2018, the New Jersey Devils have officially punched their ticket back to the Stanley Cup playoffs. Not only that, they were able to reach 100 points of the season. This is their first 100-point campaign since the 2011-2012 season, and the Devils are only 2 points behind the Carolina Hurricanes for first place in the Metropolitan Division. So getting that first spot in the Metro is still up for grabs. It's not out of the realm of possibility and still very doable. And the Devils are already plus 37 versus last year's point total with 9 games still to be played. So what a day for the New Jersey Devils. But before we talk about the game in general, before I talk about the main storylines, let's talk about the clinching circumstances for the New Jersey Devils going into the matchup against the Ottawa Senators. Now, before puck drop, the Rangers and Panthers game was still ongoing. And one of the scenarios that could have went into the Devils' favor for them to clinch a playoff spot before the conclusion of their own respective game was that if the Rangers beat the Panthers in any which sort of way in regulation. So as a result, during the course of period number 1, that game against the Rangers and Panthers had concluded, and the Rangers came out on the winning end. And I saw a lot of Rangers fans on Twitter basically just trying to twist the arm of the Devils fan base and just get Devils fans to admit, saying like, you're rooting for us now because if we beat the Panthers, then guess what? You're already in the playoffs and you don't have to worry about the outcome between the Devils and the Senators. Now, here's the thing. Either way, the Devils were going to clinch a spot. Even if not today, they were going to clinch it in their next game, I would have predicted. So it wasn't a matter if, it was more of a matter of when, because at this point, the Devils were all but guaranteed to go back to the playoffs. But in this game against the Ottawa Senators, yes, the Devils were able to clinch early thanks to the Rangers. You are correct. But here's the thing. The Ottawa Senators, it's a team that hasn't given the Devils too much issues. And even if they do give the Devils issues, the Devils still find a way to squeak out a victory. So first time we played the Ottawa Senators this year, went into OT, but the Devils were able to walk away with the win. Then second time they played them, Austin Watson had a dirty cross-check from behind on Nico Hischier, and that did hinder Nico Hischier just a tad bit. But the Devils were still able to walk away with the win. And in this game, the Senators were still hanging around. We're going to talk about Brady Tkachuk and his hit on Yegor Sharangovich, and then the fight that took place between him and Miles Wood moments after. So, yes, the Senators always find a way to compete hard with the Devils, but still, after tonight's matchup, the Devils have now swept the season series against the Ottawa Senators. So I think the win against Ottawa kind of negated the game against the Panthers and Rangers. So that's what I remember the Devils clinching a playoff spot, quite honestly. So I'm not going to worry about the Rangers or Panthers game because the Devils came away with the win. It doesn't even matter. So, yes, thanks for helping us clinch the spot a little earlier. But either way, I still think the Devils were going to come away with the win. So just wanted to put that out there for Rangers fans. That's just my 2-cent opinion. So either way, I don't care if you won or lost. I still think the Devils will have found a way to clinch either way. However, I will say this. After period number 1, I saw the Devils play a much better brand of hockey as the game progressed, because after the first period, it was tied 1-1. And I don't know what goes on in the locker room during intermission. Obviously, I'm sure the head coach, so in this case, Lindy Ruff, is giving his pep talk, whatever the case might be. But I'm sure a message was relayed to either the players or Lindy Ruff saying, hey, you guys are officially in the playoffs. And I'm sure there was a minor celebration of just cheering, high fives, whatever the case might be. And I'm sure everyone got refocused because they still got a game to be played. So I will say this. I think a weight was lifted off the shoulders of the Devils because, once again, as the game progressed, they played much better. So I don't know if they checked their cell phones, or I don't know if Lindy Ruff is informed. I don't know if someone messages into the locker room, whatever the case might be. I just think the Devils knew that they were officially in the playoffs. And I think that took the pressure off of their shoulders, because in that game on Friday against the Buffalo Sabres, once again, had the Devils just beaten them in any sort of fashion, the Devils had clinched a playoff spot right then and there, but they didn't have their best outing. So I think the Devils were still somewhat jittery. They were still nervous, and there was just a lot of pressure on them to finally get that win, because it was just another challenge that they had to face, which is, can you put the final nail in the coffin to punch your ticket back into the playoffs? So I'm sure that was just a little bit of pressure on them. And I think as soon as they were informed of that message, they were just like, okay, let's go back to our brand of hockey. Because once again, Devils played phenomenally in period number 2 and period number 3. Yes, Senators did hang around a bit, but I just saw more of a pep in the step of the Devils. Now, let's talk about some of the big storylines during the course of the game. So Brady Tkachuk had a big hit on Yegor Sharangovich, and as a result, that kind of pissed off Yegor Sharangovich, and Sharangovich wanted to fight Tkachuk. I don't know what it is with the Tkachuk brothers, but obviously Matthew Tkachuk had a run-in with Nico Hischier during the course of the year. Now Brady Tkachuk, once again, he's trying to play all tough, whatever the case might be, and that irked the Devils just a little bit. So Miles Wood was like, hey, you want to fight? I got you next. So obviously, after Brady Tkachuk serves his penalty, he gets back onto the rink. Miles Wood, he was sort of headhunting a little bit, because as soon as he gets back onto the rink for his shift, he found Brady Tkachuk, and the two started fighting. And unfortunately, Miles Wood came out on the losing end, but it doesn't even matter, because I liked what Miles Wood did, and here's why. Let me jog your memory once more. So going back to the second time that the Devils played the Ottawa Senators, I literally just mentioned it just a few moments ago. What happened in that game? Austin Watson had a dirty cross-check on Nico Hischier. Let me describe the play once more, because Nico Hischier, he was nowhere near the play. He was standing still, and Austin Watson from behind cross-checked him, and as a result, Nico Hischier got hurt, and he limped over to the bench. Luckily, he was fine, and he didn't miss any time, but still, that was completely uncalled for. And no one fought on the behalf of Nico Hischier. And I heard reports saying that Brendan Smith was trying to hunt down Watson, but the fight never came into fruition. Watson basically walked away scot-free. But in this game, Brady Tkachuk had an unnecessary hit on Yegor Sharangovich, and I think it actually knocked Sharangovich into the bench momentarily, and Sharangovich didn't take any exception to that. He wanted to ruffle the feathers of Tkachuk just a little bit more. So the thing is like, that's perfectly justifiable. And the one thing I said is, if you manage to piss off Sharangovich to the point that he wants to fight you, you know you're in the wrong, because we saw Nico Hischier and Jesper Bratt, same thing against Rasmus Dahlin against the Sabres. So obviously Miles Wood wanted to stand up on the behalf of Sharangovich. He lost the fight, but still nonetheless, Lindy Ruff liked it. He acknowledged it post-game, said that gave the Devils some energy. And then Mackenzie Blackwood, during his post-game press conference, he also said that after that fight, the Devils wanted to run through a wall on the behalf of Miles Wood. So one of the things I talked about after that Austin Watson cross-check on Nico Hischier was that the Devils needed an enforcer, or they needed to assert themselves. They need to stand up for their players. And I loved what Miles Wood did in that sort of way. I don't care that he lost a fight, but the fact that he was willing to fight on the behalf of his teammate gives the Devils a lot more energy, and it shows a lot of the character of the team. So it says like, hey, we're not going to take exception to that. We're not going to take that sitting down. You're going to pay. So I want to see more of that. And I always say Miles Wood is not an enforcer, but he is a pest. He's not afraid to get his hands dirty in circumstances like that. Now, the one thing I say about Miles Wood, if he puts up nothing but zeros, but he still is able to do something like that for his teammates, then I have no problem with him being on the rink. But the fact of the matter is simply this: he wasn't doing that. So this game shows why Miles Wood is still out there. And I like that. So I don't care if Miles Wood gets an assist or a goal. The fact that he was able to do that, that's what the Devils need. You need that guy who's not afraid to do stuff like that. So Miles Wood obviously had to serve time in the penalty box for fighting Brady Tkachuk. But not only that, he got a 2-minute minor for instigating and then a 10-minute misconduct. I think that was a complete BS call. Because Brady Tkachuk, it wasn't like he was blindsided. He was anticipating it. Because if you saw the scuffle between Sharangovich and Brady Tkachuk, Miles Wood was like, I got you next, buddy. I got you next. So, yeah, Miles Wood was sort of hunting him down a little bit more, but Brady Tkachuk was expecting it. He dropped the glove and he was like, let's go. So Miles Wood was out prematurely to end period number 1, and that carried over into period number 2. So that was my thing. It was just like, that was a complete bullcrap call by the referees. And Lindy Ruff looked like he was in disbelief as well. Because going back to that Austin Watson cross-check on Nico Hischier was not involved in the play. He was far away from the action. He had his back turned, and yet Watson felt the need to cross-check him from behind and hurting our captain. And yet for Miles Wood, he is just getting payback for Sharangovich, and Brady Tkachuk knows it's coming. And yeah, Miles Wood got his ass beat. But still, it was just like, why is that an instigating call? Like, what are we doing here? Now, Bryce Salvador broke it down during the intermission, and he said since Miles Wood did come flying off the bench looking for Tkachuk, I guess that's what constituted an instigator call. But isn't hockey a sport where we're supposed to let the players police themselves? Like, why are we getting involved in that sort of way? Especially since, one, Brady Tkachuk was anticipating it. He threw his gloves down, and Miles Wood is somehow at fault here because Brady Tkachuk knew he had it coming. That's how hockey is played. You have a dirty hit on one player, expect to pay the piper, in the words of Cam Jensen, because he knew Cam Jensen, trust me, knows he has had a few retaliations coming his way, being the enforcer he was in the NHL. So that's my thing. It's like, we're supposed to be letting the players police themselves, and hockey is meant to just let the players duke it out and not have like officials get involved in it. But I just didn't agree with it. I think that was stupid. And keep in mind, the Devils were rocking with 7 defensemen this game. So they only had 10 forwards when Miles Wood was shut down the rest of period number 1 and had to still continue to serve his time in period number 2. So, yep, that's my overall thing about the whole Miles Wood fighting fiasco. I'm glad he did it. Lindy Ruff gave him credit. Mackenzie Blackwood gave him credit. So I'm glad Miles Wood actually went through with it because, once again, that was missing the second time we played the Ottawa Senators. What is it with the Devils and getting into drama with the Senators? And what is it with the Tkachuk brothers? They seriously need some professional help. Now, when switching over to Mackenzie Blackwood is finally back from injury, and this is his first start in a decent amount of games. He didn't play well this game. He got off to a pretty slow start, and I'm sure most of those goals that were let up, I'm sure he would like to have back. So obviously the Senators were able to get 3 past him. But I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Back from injury, it's going to take some time for him to get readjusted, and it does raise a question like what's going to happen to Vitek Vanecek, what's going to happen to Akira Schmid. But I think Vitek Vanecek is still going to remain in the starting role, or he's going to start a majority of the games, or come playoff time, we're going to see Vitek Vanecek more often in between the pipes. And then for Akira Schmid, I told you guys, unfortunately, I think they're going to have to go to Mackenzie Blackwood, the veteran player, when it comes to playoffs. And I love Akira Schmid and all, but I think that's what Lindy Ruff is going to go with moving forward, which is the tandem of Vitek Vanecek and Mackenzie Blackwood. We've already seen it happen once this season after Mackenzie Blackwood came back from injury, and despite Akira Schmid putting on a show, that's just what happens. But come next year, I think Akira Schmid, that role is going to be his. Now, like I said, this game for Devils got better as it progressed. Now, it wasn't just Miles Wood and Mackenzie Blackwood who had some interesting storylines. Dougie Hamilton and Jack Hughes were also able to have productive nights. When talking about Dougie Hamilton, move over, Scott Stevens, because there's a new franchise leader for most goals by a Devils defenseman in a single season. Dougie Hamilton has 19, and the previous record holder was Scott Stevens with 18. So here's the thing, guys. I know we complain a lot about Dougie Hamilton and his defense, but there's a reason why he was a finalist for the Norris Trophy just a season or two ago, which was he knows how to rack up the goals. He knows how to rack up the points for a defenseman. And I know sometimes the Norris Trophy goes to the best offensive defenseman, and that's not a knock at Carlson, because Carlson is obviously putting up some big numbers, and he knows how to play defense as well. But for Dougie Hamilton, let's face it, it's offense, little to no defense. But and that kind of sucks. But at the same time, what I like from Dougie Hamilton is that he gives our blue line just more offensive firepower, because let's face it, it's not going to come from John Marino. It's not going to come from Jonas Siegenthaler. Kevin Ball was able to score in the previous matchup against the Buffalo Sabres, but for Kevin Ball, it's still a developing process because he's still relatively young. And then for Brendan Smith, that's not going to come from him. And for Ryan Graves, it can come in spurts, but not really consistently compared to Dougie Hamilton. So Dougie Hamilton provides a lot of offense on our blue line. So congratulations for Dougie Hamilton for surpassing Scott Stevens for most goals by a Devils defenseman in a single season. Well-deserved, and he can still get a couple more because, like I said, still 9 games remaining. Now, let's talk about the resurgence of Jack Hughes. Now, I said a few episodes ago when Jack Hughes was still struggling a bit because he only had 2 goals in his previous 17 games, I said it's only going to take one big game for Jack Hughes to break out of his funk a little bit, because he's now hit a wall. Fatigue might be playing an issue, and he might still try to be getting adjusted to the Timo Meier trade circumstance. But I said if Jack Hughes is able to find the back of the net just once, it's going to do wonders for his confidence, because that game against the Minnesota Wild, in which he had like 10 shots on goal but wasn't able to find the back of the net, I said that's definitely going to take a hinder on his confidence a little bit, at least during the course of the game, because you just saw the frustrations from Jack Hughes, because he's like, I'm creating good looks for myself. I'm creating good looks for my teammates, but somehow, some way, I still walk away with no points. So I was afraid that was going to linger in his head a little bit, but no. Come the game against the Buffalo Sabres, Jack Hughes was actually able to get a hat trick in a sense. So here's the thing. I know the score sheet says 2 goals and assists for a grand total of 3 points, but remember, Jack Hughes, he had a goal waved off, and then after that, he was able to score 2 goals. So theoretically, he was able to find the back of the net 3 times, and even though 2 of those 3 counted officially, I still say he got a hat trick in a sense, even though it's not going to be scored officially on NHL.com. So keep in mind for that. Jack Hughes able to rack up the points once again, and then in this game, it was no exception. In period number 1, we saw him just skate beautifully, splitting the Senators defense and able to just have a beauty of a shot. So for Jack Hughes, is he back? I'd say so. He's back to racking up the points. He's back to getting a little bit more consistent. I know it's only been 2 games, but keep in mind that game against the Minnesota Wild, he just ran into some bad luck and he was snake bitten just a little bit. So I think Jack Hughes is back for New Jersey Devils because he's had 3 tremendous performances in a row. And I know that might be a hot take for the Minnesota Wild game, but like I said, I saw Jack Hughes just creating a lot of shots for himself and others, and he just unfortunately ran into hot goaltending, and a lot of his teammates can relate to him in that sort of way, because Dougie Hamilton also had 9 shots on goal, and unfortunately it didn't result in much either. So I think for Jack Hughes, he is backed out. The question is, can he still break the points record for the Devils, and can he be the first Devils player in franchise history to eclipse 100 points? I saw something on Twitter that said that if Jack Hughes is able to get 14 points in the next 9 games, then he'll be able to do so. But I'm not going to put that kind of pressure on him because, like I said, I just care more about Jack Hughes just finding ways to get more points. And he can't afford to have like 1 or 2 more games in which he puts up nothing but 0. So it's definitely a tall order, especially since he's now breaking out of his slump. And I'm just trying to get him to crawl before he walks. And because I'd rather Jack Hughes put up phenomenal numbers come playoff time than try too hard to close out the season and then he comes up with nothing. So my thing is just ease back into it. There's no rush. And Jack Hughes is still young. He's signed long-term. He's not going anywhere anytime soon. Jack Hughes will leave New Jersey when Jack Hughes theoretically wants to leave New Jersey. So he's not going anywhere anytime soon. So that 100 points record for the Devils, it's going to come. If not this year, maybe next year. So that's my goal for Jack Hughes. Get 100 points and then actually have a legitimate chance to win the MVP, barring a tremendous season once again from Connor McDavid, if he's able to top it from this season. But nonetheless, Jack Hughes, he's had a phenomenal year, and it's definitely been a good comeback story for the kid. So I'm very proud of Jack Hughes for breaking out of his slump and coming at the right time too. So now that the Devils have clinched a playoff spot, pressure is off his shoulders, pressure is off some other players' shoulders. So I think Jack Hughes, he is bound to once again just carry over his success come playoff time. And hopefully we can see a great playoff performance from Jack Hughes. But keep in mind, he hasn't seen the light of day after 82 games. So that's definitely another X factor that we're going to talk about in a future episode. Also worth mentioning that Jack Hughes became the first Devil since Zach Parise to get 40 goals in a single season. Now, before we continue and I give you guys the final stats and a letter grade for the Devils, I want you guys to eat a little healthier. So let me tell you about Built Bar. So looking for a delicious treat but don't want all the fat and calories, then you got to try a Built Bar. So obviously, I know the holiday season has come and gone, and one of your New Year's resolutions was to eat healthier. So my thing is you got to try Built. With Built, healthy is actually tasty. Seriously, they're so delicious, you won't even think they're good for you. Perfect for your New Year's resolution. What makes Built Bar so good? Well, for starters, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. And they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. Not sure how Built does it, but somehow, some way, only 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar and a whopping 17 grams of protein. Now you don't need to wait around to get a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering your Built Bars at Built.com. Now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today. Walk to the pharmacy section and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. If you're close to Sam's Club, run in and grab a 13-bar box with our hit flavors, brownie batter, and churro. You can thank me later. Built Bar is a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. And now, speaking on the topic of health, let me tell you about Athletic Greens. It's literally a product I use every day. I started taking AG1 because I wanted to be happier. I wanted to be healthier. My body is a temple, so I got to start treating it as such. So what is this stuff? Well, with one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging, all those things. So it's lifestyle is friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. Contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything, while still tasting good. Supports better sleep quality and recovery, supports mental clarity and alertness. It's one thing that's best about Athletic Greens. They use best of the best products based on the latest science with constant product iterations and third-party testing. So right now it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with the convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out after your health to make things easier. Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Okay, so like we do with every post-game recap, let's look at the final stats, and then I will give the Devils a letter grade. So when looking at the shots on goal category, 35-28 in favor of the Devils. Face-off percentage, 57% to 43% in favor of the Devils. Power play, Senators were 0 for 3. Devils were 1 for 2, thanks to Jack Hughes. Hits, 32-13 in favor of the Senators. Blocks, 19-18 in favor of the Senators. Giveaways, 8-6 in favor of the Devils. Now, if I had to give the Devils a letter grade, I'm going to give them a solid A because yes, Mackenzie Blackwood, he did seem a little rusty in net, but that's to be expected. And the Devils got better as the game progressed. This game was entertaining. And once again, they came out with the win 5-3. Dougie Hamilton, he broke a franchise record. Jack Hughes, he is back, and he's showing glimpses of what he was able to do throughout most of the year. And once again, the Devils have clinched a playoff spot for the first time since 2018. They reached 100 points, so it's hard for me not to give them an A. So Devils, phenomenal performance up and down the board. Check plus, check plus, check plus. So let me know what you guys think. What did you think about the Devils' performance? What did you think about them clinching a playoff spot? And what's the expectations moving forward? So once again, I just want Jack Hughes and others to take it a little bit easy now that they're officially in the playoffs. And I can guarantee you if maybe a player is going up to Lindy Ruff saying, hey, my ankle's a little sore, it's nothing to be concerned about, I'm sure Lindy Ruff is going to be like, you know what? We've already clinched a playoff spot. So I'm going to rest you for the next game. So that's just me speculating. I don't know what would actually happen, but now, like I said, the Devils can take it easy just a little bit more now that they're officially in the playoffs. So here's your guys' thoughts. So leave a comment down below if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on a podcast streaming service, hit me up on my personal Twitter page at TreyMatt4 or the show's Twitter page at Locked On Devils. As for today's episode, that's all the time I have for you. So continue to stay safe. Have a wonderful day, New Jersey. Go Devils. I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Thanks for listening once again.